name is Angela Ward, and I have no agenda except exposing the people who trafficked me and my mother and kidnapped my family, holding my mom against her will, which is the mayor's friends and family of Biloxi, Andrew Fofo Gilich. If you type in his last name, you will, in NAMBLA, you're going to pull up a bunch of sex websites. Well, until they decide to scrub it and you can't see it, but I still have it. But anyway, this popped up on my phone, and Kevin's name popped up today. So I went looking, and this is what I found. It's very disturbing.
Now, we've been telling you all week about the controversy surrounding President Obama's safe school czar, Kevin Jennings. Tonight, we have new information on that story involving Jennings and his professed admiration for a supporter of the North American Man-Boy Love Association. Now, Jennings is on record having praised Harry Hay, an outspoken supporter of NAMBLA, and not surprisingly, of sexual relationships between young boys and older men. Now, we called Jennings' office for comment on the issue, but we got no response. And joining me now with more details on the story is a former FBI veteran agent who infiltrated the group NAMBLA, and he is also the author of The Last Undercover, the true story of an FBI's dangerous dance with evil. Bob Hamer is with us. Bob, welcome to the program. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Sean, for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Now, you actually joined the group NAMBLA, in 2001? Just so people have an idea, before we get to the political controversy, tell us about you infiltrating this group.
Actually, the infiltration was fairly easy. They had a website. I paid $35. I joined the group. They sent me a letter praising me for my courageous step in joining the organization. I began to get emails from them. I would subscribe to their magazine. They started to send me their magazine, but they wouldn't allow me to attend any of their secret underground meetings until I'd been a member for 3 years and had been sponsored by another active duty member.
All right. Well, what is NAMBLA's real agenda? They say publicly that it is to get rid of age consent laws, but it's deeper than that. What did you discover in your years having infiltrated them?
Oh, yeah. They're hiding behind the First Amendment. Ostensibly, they claim that they are designed to abolish age of consent laws. I was in the organization for 3 years. I had attended 2 of their national conferences. I spoke with many of their members. I corresponded with about 175 of their members. At no time during my 3-year infiltration was there ever any discussion about modifying age of consent laws, abolishing age of consent laws. Every conversation that I had was about where to go to have sex with little boys, how they could attract little boys, how they could groom little boys. That was their agenda.
All right, you actually sat through a discussion at one of these seminars that you went to where they talked about, it's almost unimaginable, about sex with an 18-month-old child. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. At one of the conferences that I attended, there was a discussion about that it was actually okay, proper, there was nothing wrong with having oral sex on an 18-month-old boy. The rationale being that little boys, play with themselves, they enjoy touching themselves.
All right.
So the men were actually bringing pleasure to the little boys by committing oral sex.
This is really sick and really twisted. Now, this brings us to the issue of this guy. Who is Harry Hay and his involvement, the guy that Jennings has praised? Who is he?
Harry Hay is a long-time radical. He is sort of a NAMBLA icon. If NAMBLA had a Hall of Fame, he would be in it. In fact, in their 2002, when Harry Hay died, he was on the cover of their magazine, the NAMBLA Bulletin. Harry Hay spoke at NAMBLA conferences. He marched with them when they were more public with their participating in parades and all of that. But yeah, Harry Hay.
All right, what do you make then of our safe school czar saying about Harry Hay, and this is him, he was one of the people that always inspired me. What are we to conclude?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he found that Harry Hay was a person he admired, someone that he must have followed the agenda. He knew the agenda of Harry Hay, and he certainly supported Harry Hay. And Harry Hay is a strong advocate of NAMBLA, was a strong advocate before he died in 2002.
And so Jennings had to have known that.
Oh, certainly. Harry Hay didn't hide his support for NAMBLA.
Okay. Bob, thank you for being with us. I understand you also took down 8 of these guys and got them off the street. Thank you for being with us. Appreciate it. And now, Kevin Jennings' actions and associations have led some conservatives, by the way, including me. We're calling for Kevin Jennings' resignation. The question is, will it happen? And joining me now to discuss this is Iowa Congressman Steve King. He also is asking the president to get rid of Kevin Jennings. Well, you just heard about the group NAMBLA. You heard about this guy that Kevin Jennings has praised, a guy that always inspired him, that was associated with this group. What are we to conclude?
Well, I think we can conclude that President Obama's agenda and his associates and their fellow travelers have been appointed to influential positions in the United States government. But this is a breathtaking reveal that you've done here, Sean, to think that. I mean, I've said before that I think Kevin Jennings has got to be the poster boy for NAMBLA, but to understand that he has also endorsed Harry Hay and at least referenced his association with him, that tells you that at least they support him and his lifetime agenda. Now he's supposed to be the safe schools and drug-free schools czar, and to think that his lifetime work has been about the promotion of homosexuality within our schools and a lot of it within our elementary schools, and to think of this association, I can't imagine how the president can do anything if he cares about the values of America except simply fire him rather than wait for him to resign.
What do you make of him writing a foreword for a book, the queering of elementary education? And the other question is, did the White House not vet this guy again? Or do they just, or are these values acceptable? What are we to conclude?
Well, the foreword of the book of Queering of Elementary Education tells you a lot about the career of Kevin Jennings. And he also has 4 books that he's authored himself, and every one of them deal with homosexuality and focus on homosexuality within the schools. He's got a very narrow approach to this, and then I think that the president, whether they've actually vetted them or not, I think that the fellow travelers part of this thing is the vetting process. The people who advise the president have these kind of associations, and so that's what we've seen happen, Sean.
I haven't focused so much. I'm more libertarian in terms of what people's preferences are, what adults do in the privacy of their bedroom. That's my position. I've been very clear over the years about this. But here's my problem, and this all got started because Jennings himself admitted that it was a 15-year-old boy that came to him for counseling, and because the boy was having sex with an older male and an older adult, which, as the Washington Times said, would be statutory rape. Now, Jennings said he was 15. Now, apparently, the boy, whose name is Brewster, has come out and said, no, I was 16 at the time. Jennings said it was 15. So it also raises judgment, because the only advice he gave him, I hope you were wearing a condom. I just can't believe there's not more outrage and that there's been no real questioning in the White House about this. Do you foresee this in the future? What do you see happening?
I think that if the American people rise up, they can demand that the president remove Kevin Jennings. And it doesn't matter whether Brewster was 16 or 15.
Yeah.
Kevin Jennings has said he believed he was 15. That makes him a mandatory reporter. And by law in Massachusetts, he was required to report the incident of sexual abuse of a child by an adult that was probably a decade or more older who had picked him up in the restroom of a bus stop. So this is the kind of person that would be the model for our education, and it just cannot be tolerated, Sean.
Well, Steve, I agree, and I stand by my position. He needs to be fired. The president needs to be questioned about it, and so does, obviously, the propagandist Robert Gibbs. We're going to continue to follow the story. We're taking a lot of heat for doing it, but, Congressman, I'm sure you are, too. Thanks for being with us.
I am. He needs to be a model, not someone who has promoted this homosexual agenda, Sean.
Well, certainly it's reckless judgment and reckless positions, and we appreciate you being with us. And coming up, the CBS...